Welcome back to episode 3 of our Golden Thread podcast on Black History Month in October 2023. So the theme of this episode is talking about the inspiring women in our panel's life. Lucy Dadge, our ICB colleague, also talks about the importance of using your platform and what this means for empowering other women and uplifting those that come after us.
So it would be good to hear. So who have been the inspiring women in your lives? So Liz, you mentioned Michelle Obama, but in your personal life, so who have you taken most inspiration from? And it doesn't have to be professional, because I think it's just people who you get that energy from, isn't it? So who's been your inspiration?
Like my parents as well, because they're very hardworking. So my entire family, they're very hardworking. So it's just the drive and the attitude to work. And also I draw inspiration from everywhere, really, even from the news. I read about this nurse in one of the London hospitals that brought Afro combs to the ward, for example. Yeah. I'm like, wow, how many Black people have been going to hospital? And it took one person to realize that people were having to have their hair shaved off because they didn't have proper care for it, to actually make that change. And even though it looks like a small change, just someone's well-being, you can imagine your hair is quite it's a big deal to everybody. So just being well taken care of in hospital can also have a huge impact in how you feel and how and even how you feel about the care that you're receiving. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. Even making those small steps still can have a huge impact. So I draw inspiration from even colleagues as well. So I make sure that I'm not just only doing the work, but if there's a change that needs to be made for improvement for the diverse people we cater to, I'm bridging that gap, or I'm contributing, or I'm suggesting alternatives, or I'm providing some sort of solution to that problem. So yeah, that motivates me to not just do what you're supposed to, but sometimes try the little bit extra or go a little bit further if you can.
I love that, because it shows individual value, isn't it? It's making that person feel. I mean, I wouldn't have even thought about it. Combs, but yeah, you're absolutely right. It's about making that person feel like actually your needs have really, we're really trying to meet your needs. And yeah, that's really good. Anybody else want to say who their inspiration is? And
actually for myself, it's my parents. My parents are very hardworking and they're very religious as well. So I've always been brought up that it doesn't matter what a person looks like, it's about who they are. So that's sort of my slogan wherever I go. I mean, in terms of my reflection to my kind of profession, it was quite difficult to start off with, because I was really young and I was really quite small. So I never felt like my voice was heard. But I had a really good manager. She was Caucasian. And I remember everywhere I went, I was always asked, are you a student? And I used to get very offended, because I was like, no, actually, I'm the nurse in charge, because I was really tiny and small and, still growing in confidence, really, because, you've come into an environment where you stand out. And when you stand out, everyone's watching you. And as rightfully as, everyone has said, is that you have to work twice as hard. And I found that I was working so hard with little or not much recognition. And I found that it was very difficult, because, it almost felt that I had to shout on top of the mountaintop to be heard. And then I remember my mom always saying, do you know what, just do your work, do your best. And that's all that matters. And I remember my manager saying to me, do you know what, Idah, we don't get to see what you do, but we see the results, We don't know how you've done it, but we can see the results. And I think that I've always taken that on board, that wherever I went, I've always managed to work very hard and produce results. So I'm a very goal-orientated person. And I started to build up my confidence. I started to really know who I was, because when you're in your own environment, sometimes you're not really sure who you are. But when you're exposed, that's when you get to know, right, this is who I am. These are my strengths. These are my weaknesses. And I started building on myself. And just kind of growing and, educating myself as well. And, I was just kind of reflecting, listening to everyone, talk about how sometimes, I've started about 2 pilots before, and at no point did I get any recognition for that, because that was starting work from scratch, and it takes a lot of resilience. And I've noticed that people of color are very resilient. So give them a task, they will get it done, And I found that sometimes in our workplaces, we kind of I don't know if that's the right word, but we kind of put in the forefront to start whether it's a service because of our resilience, because they know we'll get it done and we'll do it. And then it almost feels that after the work is complete, someone else's face goes on it, and your hard work is not put into recognition. So that's been my motivator, to be quite honest, because for myself, I don't need my face to be on any service. It's the work that I do, it's the patients that I work with, and that's the most important thing. So my motivation really has come from, the good managers I've had in the past and present at the moment, and my children. And I want my children to learn from me. I want to be a role model for my children. So they see me work hard. They see me, kind of put myself out there, because I want my children to be like that.
That's such a strong motivation, isn't it? And it's about making sure that you can show your kids that you can break those barriers and actually you can get somewhere. And it might be a bit of a struggle, but it's worth getting there. That definitely resounds with me. Hashiat, who is your inspiration, or who do you take motivation from?
I think from my background, generally, it's mostly coming from the parents, I would say. In my case, I would say my parents are both equally my motivation, but particularly if I look at my mom and look at where she's come from and what she's built now and how she's supported the family, and I see how much work she puts into everything she does, and you can see the result. Even if it's not just in us, you can see the result in her business, in her hard work. And when she wants to do something, we always make fun of her, when she's determined, she wants what she wants. And if she comes about with an idea and you're thinking that's too expensive, you can't afford it, she'll be like, we'll do it. Go do it.
We'll work it out, yeah.
She will find a way to do it. She does it all the time. So I think it took me now having my own kid to sort of think back and look at, she always wants to get it done and she always does it. And it's just being focused. And I think naturally I have this habit where when you tell me I can't do something, that's when I really have to do it. It's almost like it's like the need to sort of prove it wrong. Even if doing it doesn't really matter that much to me, but just the fact that you feel I couldn't do it, why would you think so? So I have to do it now. And then I have to prove a point and then move on from there. That's fine. But I think sometimes realizing as well, people of color generally don't get it easy. If you make a mistake, you do get made an example. You don't get out of it easy. You don't get given a bit of, I would say a bit of a touch in the hand. You get proper in trouble. So knowing that and being extra careful with everything and being more, I think, more focused and putting more effort than an average person will put, because you don't want to be you don't want to half-ass it, if that's the right word for it. You want to do everything the right way. You want to have the results. You want to get it done, tick all the boxes, just like Lucy said, make sure you're the model student, because you're representing quite a lot. And I think from what Errum said, someone like myself who's Muslim, who's Black, it's you're almost in all the minority sort of points. So you have more points to prove. You have more sort of things to show. You have more sort of examples you have to present. And I think you become more aware of a lot of things that other people don't sort of pick up on. And you're more quite conscious of what's happening. But I would say I'm a bit lucky, particularly in training. I'm particularly lucky about supervisor. I've got a really supportive supervisor, and things sometimes you don't even pay attention to. She would ask, Like, do you need support for this? Do you need help with this? And it just makes, it gladdens your heart to be like, oh, someone really does care and someone really does feel the need to do that. And it motivates you. Like, you don't want to disappoint. Like, you don't want to be like, oh, and this person is really supportive and then I'm this useless, something like that. So you want to be like that upstanding person and do as much as you can. I think that's really the drive for me generally.
It's interesting, isn't it? So I definitely had that experience when I was in foundation training of having my first educational supervisor. I was just scared of them. I was really scared of them, and they didn't make it any easier. So actually, I think they thrived off that fear that I had of them. And it was a white male gentleman. And this was I don't think it was because I was I was brown or I was a woman. I think he just enjoyed having that kind of persona about him. But actually, it completely reduced me. So I wasn't able to fulfill my potential because I felt fear, and it was horrible. It was disabling. And then when I moved into a renal rotation, my goodness, my educational supervisor was incredible. And actually, I thrived. And by the end of my foundation training, I remember a consultant turned around and was like, like, I could sometimes mistake you for a registrar. And to have that acknowledgement was like, wow, but had I continued with that initial educational supervisor, I would have been tiny, and my insecurities would have been, oh, it's because I'm brown and it's because I'm a woman, right? So sometimes it's these internal struggles that you have as well, and you question, you question people's reaction to you and their motivations for helping or not helping you. And I think sometimes I read too much into somebody's motivations, and it probably was nothing to do with my color or my race or my name or my gender, but because I felt that they were my insecurities, that's what I thought that it was because of. How do you go on, sorry,
that can become a self-fulfilling prophecy, though, can't it? Because we're working harder, we're paddling hard below the surface. We feel we've got to get it right. We feel that if we get criticised, we won't just get, because we all make mistakes. I make them the whole time, but the mistake will get conflated with what you are, not just who you are. And I've had particularly white male colleagues say to me, well, I don't know why you get so worried about that. And I say, because they go, well, I just shrug it off, or I just say it the way. And I think, yeah, but the problem is you can. You can, I can't. But then the whole thing becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, because you've got such an internal struggle with yourself about, am I doing the best? Am I being the best? Am I showing the best me the whole time? That you then can, you can sort of fall prey to people saying, well, you're really good at your job, but you're just not quite confident enough. You're not, you don't push yourself forward. And you want to say, blimey, some days it takes all my effort to get myself up and out and back again. So actually, wanting to push myself forward is a kind of added extra. If I can just survive and do a job and do the best job, the kind of whole kind of, promoting my own profile is that's a kind of nice to have. But then when you talk about people that motivate, you'll probably all know Manik Arora, Dr. Manik Arora. And he's not a woman, is he? He's a man. But Manik said to me, and I said, I would have said to Manik, I really do struggle, because yes, I am black, but I've got lots of other advantage. I'm educated. I'm economically resilient. I don't represent any, nobody, because that's the other problem, isn't it? People say, well, you're black, so you can kind of speak for the entire. But I can't. I can only speak for me. Yeah. So then you think, well, okay, maybe I just kind of keep my head down, because I'd feel a fraud putting my head above the parapet. And actually, I'm just trying my hardest to do the best job that I can. Okay. But Manik said to me, you've got to decide how to use your platform. You have a platform, and you don't have to stand on that platform and shout. but you have a platform and think about how you use it. And I thought, that is fair comment. But that constant having to reassure yourself that you're good enough, you're doing well enough. That's, as I say, that fear that any criticism won't be just of you, it'll be of what you represent. It's hard, isn't it?
Thank you for listening, and this brings us to the end of episode 3. We hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. Next time, we'll be talking about, imposter syndrome, and how actually women in all walks of life, women and men in all walks of life, probably suffer from this at some point. But please join us again for episode 4.